On 15th of August, Friday at around 3:30 p.m., Trump and Putin met at Anchorage, Alaska. By the way, Anchorage, it was a US air base. It was a much talked event in this year with respect to international affairs. Today in this video, I'll be decoding every aspect of this meeting. So stay tuned till the end of this video. Firstly, what is the purpose behind this meeting? I mean, why would the two top world leaders gather without a purpose? There has to be some purpose, right? Yes, behind this very high voltage meeting also there was a sole purpose. So what is that sole purpose we are talking about? It's all about to stop prolonged Russia-Ukraine war. We all know that why Russia-Ukraine war has started. I mean, what are the major reasons behind the war? If we look at the timeline, firstly, Russia-Ukraine war began in February 2014. It was the time when a flight carrying 298 people were shot down by the Ukrainian forces. By the way, these were not a real Ukrainian forces. Then who were these? Those were rebel Ukrainian forces, the separatist paramilitaries. By the way, these are the people from eastern part of the Ukraine, mainly concentrated in the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. These rebels support Russia. I mean, these are pro-Russian people. For these minute details, we have to look at the history of that area further, which we are already aware of. It's been more than 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine now. Firstly, we have to know this, why Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. To establish a pro-Russian government in the Donbas region. According to Putin, Russia is aligned with the Minsk agreements. These were a series of agreements signed in 2014 and 2015 with the aim of resolving the conflict in eastern Ukraine. The agreements known as Minsk I and Minsk II outlined a political roadmap for ending the conflict through a political settlement, including a ceasefire, withdrawal of military equipment, and granting special status to separatist-held areas. Despite their intentions, the agreements largely failed to achieve a lasting peace and were ultimately overtaken by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Now, cut to yesterday's Trump and Putin meeting. I mean, as we can see in the map, US and Russia doesn't share land borders. Then also why Trump is so desperate in this matter? That is because during US presidential election campaign, he said that he is desperate for the fighting to stop and he is going to end this Russia-Ukraine war. Because due to this very ongoing war, US is losing a lot of its taxpayers' money in the name of aid. Now, after being elected as a US president, Trump applied his own tactics to stop this war. That is by putting a huge amount of sanctions on Russia. But after hitting with numerous sanctions also, Russia didn't stop the war. That's why in the month of February, he did invited Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to talk about this ongoing war. But that meeting didn't go well. As we are aware about that Oval Office drama, during the meeting how the US Vice President J.D. Vance interrupted again and again. Eventually, both J.D. Vance and Zelensky ended up in arguing with each other and that meeting didn't go well. After that, he also talked with Vladimir Putin over a phone call, but it didn't work too. That's why Trump invited Putin in Alaska for this one-on-one meeting related to ongoing war. Before flying to Alaska, Vladimir Putin stopped in Magdan. What is the reason for his visit over there? Well, it is part practical and part symbolic. Magdan sits in Russia's far east on the Sea of Okhotsk, about 8 hours flight from Moscow and just 4 hours from Alaska. It's a region rich in natural resources but also strategically positioned for Russia's specific ambitions. From Magdan, he flew to Anchorage for his much anticipated meeting with Trump at Joint Base Allendorf Richardson. By the way, why are Trump and Putin meeting in Alaska? That too in a military base. This place is chosen for its security and strategic location. Alaska is a place of historical and strategic importance where Russian ambitions meet American interests. As we all know that till 1860, Alaska was a part of the Russia. Later, Alaska was sold to US by the Russian Empire. For Putin, Alaska is the closest point. Alaska is just 90 kilometers from Russia. Plus, the Kremlin leaders can arrive without flying over hostile countries, avoiding the risk of airspace complications or any other confrontations. Now coming to the meeting, Donald Trump welcomed his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, exchanged a warm greeting on the red carpet which was laid on the runway of an American airbase in Anchorage, Alaska. It was Putin's first visit to the US since 2015 when he met President Barack Obama. Both the presidents, desperate to show their friendly relationship, laughing as they walked down the red carpet lined on both sides by US fighter jets. Before briefly taking to a stage, they did another handshake in front of the gathered media. At one point, they looked to the sky as four F-22 fighter jets and two stealth bombers performed a flyover of the Joint Base Armando of Richardson. I think it was just US military might was on display with the B-2 stealth bomber flying overhead the two presidents. As we know that the F-22 fighter jet is a twin-engine, jet-powered, all-weather supersonic stealth fighter aircraft. This is the part of the United States Air Force Advanced Tactical Fighter Program. This aircraft showcases the air superiority fighter but also incorporates ground attack, electronic warfare and signal intelligence capabilities. Coming to B-2 bomber, these are American heavy strategic bomber that uses low observable stealth technology to penetrative sophisticated anti-aircraft defenses. It is often referred to as a stealth bomber. Have a look at these visuals. As they posed for photographers, some reporters shouted questions to Putin like, "When will you stop killing civilians? And why should Trump trust your words?" But they moved away to the meeting venue in the US President's armored car, where they went for one-on-one meeting. It was an almost 3 hours long meeting. After that, they had a joint press meet. Putin spoke first and he said that it was time for the US and Russia to move from confrontation to dialogue and called the meeting long overdue. Trump then spoke of his fantastic relationship with Putin and described the meeting as extremely productive, but neither leader revealed the details of what had been discussed. One of the most notable moments came right at the end, when Trump said he would probably see Putin again very soon, to which Putin switches to English to personally invite Donald Trump to Moscow for the next round of peace talks. He said next time in Moscow. For this, Trump described the proposal as an interesting one, and it was possibility, though he acknowledged he might get a little heat on that one. Still, he added, I could see it possibly happening. After a final handshake, the pair left without taking any questions. Putin boarded his plane and left to return to Russia shortly after their statements to the press. Around 5 hours after he had landed in Alaska. Before heading back to Washington, D.C., Trump sat down for an interview with Fox News in which he gave the meeting 10 out of 10 and said they were pretty close to a deal on Ukraine. Finally, he waved as he boarded Air Force One and began the journey back to the White House after just 6 hours on the ground in Alaska. Now I will tell you the key takeaways of this meeting. Firstly, we can say that no progression at all with respect to this matter. Otherwise, one can say that meeting dents Trump's reputation as a deal maker. For the man who likes to address himself as a peacemaker and a deal maker, it appears that Trump left Alaska with neither. There are also no indications that a further summit that indicates Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is forthcoming. Putin's next time on Moscow hints about their next meeting notwithstanding. While Trump had less at stake during these negotiations than Ukraine or Russia, it still will put a dent in his domestic and international prestige after earlier promotes that this meeting had only a 25% chance of failure. During joint press, Putin minced no words in acknowledging that the US-Russia relations fell to the lowest point since the Cold War. Sooner or later, we have to amend the situation to move on the confrontation to dialogue, he said. Putin said that the meeting in Alaska wasn't just historic but necessity. After 4 difficult years of no bilateral meeting, he said the agreements reached today might just be the first step on the path to peace in Ukraine. We are sincerely interested to end conflict, but all root causes must be eliminated and all of Russia's concerns must be taken into account, Putin said in the joint press conference with Trump. Putin said today's agreement will help us restart pragmatic relations. He thanked Trump for his friendly tone and results-oriented approach. Trump said no deal until there is a deal. He said he had an extremely productive meeting with Putin and many points were agreed to, but there are just a very few that are left. Trump said progress but no deal. He said that we really made some great progress. I believe we had a productive meeting. There were many points that we agreed on. There is no deal until there is a deal. Trump said he will call up NATO and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and tell him about the Friday's meeting. Trump and Putin didn't reach a ceasefire in Ukraine or peace agreement, but the ice is broken and more meetings are coming. According to me, since from past 3.5 years of Western countries' collective efforts have failed to make him changes his mind, and that now includes the Alaska meeting too. That's what I think. Thank you for watching it, and I will see you in the next one.